Oh, wait. Here we go. All right. It looks like we're live, and welcome everyone to the special edition of Confidence Strategies with Carmen Milagro. I'm Carmen Milagro, and I'm really excited for today's broadcast because not only is it a special edition in mid-morning or late morning or afternoon for some of you, but it's the guest that I'm so excited about. But as always, some of you don't know who we are or what we're doing, and I just thought I'd introduce myself a little bit more formally. My name is Carmen Milagro. I'm an entrepreneurist. I'm a confidence strategist. I'm the founder of a hemp CBD skincare line. I'm a hospitality consultant, and the most amazing role that I have is auntie to amazing kids. And I also work with children and help them in music and education. So there's a lot that I do that I love. And I think some of you know that what I believe for myself, I am an entrepreneur, an entrepreneurist, and my purpose is helping others, and my passion is music and art. For today's webisode, I want you to know that he is joining us. He's carving time out of his busy schedule. He's driven to get to a location where he's got the Wi-Fi, the effort and the detail, and it's so appreciated that he's able to join us today. I know that some of you tune in on a regular basis, and I'm so excited that you do that and that you engage and you comment and you share the videos. You can comment on our group page, Confidence Strategies, and that's what we're all about. The whole premise of the show is to share with you our guest stories. They talk about their challenges and their passions and their purpose, and they give you tips. They're resources. I hope that you are not only entertained, but enlightened, and that if we're able to help at least one person transform their life, then that is all I need to continue to do this. As always, our sponsor, thank you so much to Music City in San Francisco for being our sponsor, for believing in this project. And I think that's pretty much it on my end. So I want to get right into the introduction for our guest today. He is none other than Frank McKinney, and I want to make sure that I get all of this correct. He's known in some circles as the real estate artist, the Daredevil Developer, an aspirational speaker and marathoner. He's a modern day Renaissance man and a coach, as well as a self-proclaimed Philanthro-Capitalist, and we're going to ask him about that. He's he's also a 7-time best-selling author, and he's getting ready to release his latest book called Aspire, with an exclamation point. There might be several exclamation points after you hear what he has to say today. Frank has been a media darling for nearly 30 years. His vision and risk-taking have been the subject of numerous international television, radio, and print features, including Oprah, 2020, USA Today, Fox, CNN, Discovery Channel, Travel Channel. I can't wait for you to meet him. So without further ado, here he is, Frank McKinney.
Hey everybody, I'm coming to you from the basement of a church because the Wi-Fi is better here than where I'm staying in North Carolina, putting the finishing touches on the book you just referenced, Carmen, my book titled Aspire, How to Create Your Own Reality and Alter Your DNA. And I also want to thank your guests for being patient and allowing you to interview me earlier in the day, because I know your thing's usually at night, which is 7 p.m. your time, 10 p.m. my time. I'm long gone by then. I am long asleep since then. I'm a lot less exciting than I look. I go to bed at about 8 o'clock because I get up at 4 every day.
At 4 a.m. And why is that, Frank?
Well, I either get out on the road and run because I'm an ultramarathon runner, or I go to the gym. I get inside my Bible. I just really do well inside those early 3 or 4 hours in the morning before the rest of the world wakes up. Right.
That quiet time where you can focus and you can be, reflect and be inside yourself. I think that's really important. I think that is a strategy that people can use in their lives as well. But, to each his own.
Right. Well, Go ahead.
Thank you
It's your
so
show.
much. No, I just thank you so much for joining. I cannot tell you how excited I am to be able to chat with you live like this. As I mentioned to you when we were talking in the green room, I saw you for the first time in November of 2019 on stage, and everyone was wonderful at that event. But the person that stood out the most to me, that really spoke to my heart and my brain, was you. So here we are. I almost can't believe that you're here with me on the show. So thank you.
You know, that was a special event, and a lot of good has come from that event. A number of people that were at that event have donated to our Caring House Project Foundation, which we'll talk about a little bit, what we do in Haiti through that. Yes. But for those of you who weren't at the event, I'll give you a little backstory, a little bit of my commercial, so people feel comfortable taking, an hour of their time listening to me. Right. I'm a corn-fed country boy from Indiana. I was born and raised on a farm. I'm the oldest of 6 children. My father was a banker. My mother was a retired school teacher, 4 sisters and a brother. I went to 4 high schools in 4 years growing up, and it wasn't because my father was in the military. It was because I was locked up in juvenile detention on 7 different occasions. So I was arrested, but before 18, when you're arrested, you don't go to jail, you go to juvenile detention. And so I was bounced from one school to the next. And I finally graduated from a school that was run by Benedictine monks. So when I went to class, Carmen, my teachers wore hoods, and their outfit was tied together with a rope. I mean, they dressed as monks. So I kind of purged my system. I kind of took out the eraser of life. If we take out an eraser, an imaginary eraser, turn around to the chalkboard of life, and I erased what was, which was that kind of troublemaking juvenile delinquent. And I boarded a plane with a $50 bill and a one-way plane ticket to Florida. And I landed in Palm Beach as an 18-year-old, leaving this small little town of Indiana, landing in Palm Beach. That is a wake-up call. And for those of you who are kind of close to my age, maybe even a little younger, you'll remember a show on TV called Lifestyles of Rich and Famous.
Of course.
So that great accent, Robin Leach. So that show, and for those of you who are younger, think MTV Cribs, where you get a chance to look inside the lifestyles of rich and famous, kind of like a voyeuristic look at how the wealthy lived. And I wanted a piece of that, Carmen. I was young, impressionable, consumeristic, materialistic. Who isn't at 18, 19 years old? But how? I had no education. I didn't have the benefit of going beyond a 1.8 grade point average in high school. There was no formal education. Not even a community college would take me. So I was infatuated, almost intoxicated by this lifestyle that I saw. I was a maintenance worker on a golf course. So I was around people who played golf all day long. I mean, it just was so confusing and perplexing to me that people could play golf and didn't seem to ever work. Right. And then I was transferred to the tennis courts as a maintenance worker. And those same people were playing tennis in the afternoon, golf in the morning, tennis in the afternoon. How did you get to live this lifestyle? I became a tennis instructor after a maintenance worker. I was making, $50 an hour, over 100 grand a year as a tennis instructor. But Carmen, there was a limit to how much money I could make. Sure. As a tennis instructor. And most people I was teaching tennis to made their fortune, made their millions in real estate. So I earned my PhD in entrepreneurship and my master's in real estate on that tennis court, teaching the wealthy how to hit a better forehand and backhand and asking them the question, how did you get here? And for 2 years straight, I went to school on all my tennis students. While I'm getting paid to teach them tennis, I'm picking their brain. And the answer I got back was real estate. And so over 30 years ago, matter of fact, I'm going to date myself. It was 35 years ago yesterday that I bought my first flip house, my first fixer-upper, renovated it, fixed it up, and sold it, and made a $7,000 profit. Now, fast forward many years later, I specialize in building homes on the direct ocean front in Palm Beach County on speculation. So I build these homes without a buyer in mind. I buy the land, design the house, furnish the house, sell the house, all without a buyer. So talk about a big risk. We put that for sale sign in the ground and like the Field of Dreams, build it and you hope they will come. Well, today when I say we, my wife and I and our team have done 44 direct oceanfront houses with an average selling price of $14.5 million. So that's my professional commercial. I'll save the spiritual side for a little later.
Right. Frank, I am not sure that Facebook is working with the live. So let me just check real quick here. I am so sorry. I don't think that it is working. I'm not sure why. Okay, this is very interesting. But it looks like the YouTube one is going. So let's just keep going. And if not, we may just have you come back.
You want to start over? Because I can see it live in the top left.
Yeah,
above your
that's
head.
what it says. It looks like my Facebook page one isn't working, but it looks like the group page is working. So let's just continue on. There's always technology and live situations, and we'll just keep it going. We'll just keep it going.
Okay.
And thank you so much for sharing that. What I love about what you said, and I'd really like to, yes, it is working on the group page. So,
Okay.
but what I love about what you were saying just a few minutes ago, Frank, is how you learned, how you earned your PhD and your master's on that tennis court. Because I think that sometimes people do get caught up in titles and they get caught up in this sense of hierarchy. I don't believe in that. I don't like it when people are judging others, by titles or what they have or don't have. And I think that whoever is out there listening and says, well, I didn't get that master's, I didn't get that PhD, I didn't go to college. I think sometimes that is such a stumbling block, and it really erodes people's sense of confidence. So thank you for sharing that part of your life, because if we're able to enlighten someone, and we're going to talk about where you started and where you are now, the project that you just did, that you just sold last year during the pandemic. I just love it that we can show people that it's not always about the titles and the degrees. I'm not saying that school's not important, of course, but it's not the only route to success, however you define success.
To give people a very simple analogy or representation about formal education, it's either for you or it's not for you. And if it's not for you, don't force it. The reason it wasn't for me is because, well, two reasons. One is I had a fallback job. I was making $100,000 a year as a tennis instructor that I did go to school for, by the way. Not a classroom, but I went to school for it.
Right.
So I was making that money. And if the real estate market didn't work out, I could always go back. And if even today, I could go back and be a tennis instructor if I had to.
Right.
And the other part was, sitting in a classroom. I did very well in two subjects. One is writing, because I knew, I love writing. I've written 7 books.
Creative.
And the other one was math, because I knew I wanted someday to count a lot of money. And I needed to know math to be able to count money. Those were the two that interested me. So don't feel, if formal education isn't for you or you're struggling with it, if you're struggling with it, that it isn't for you and it's time to move on.
Right. And there's also other, just really quickly, my background, I knew that I was an artist since I was a kid. And I loved school and I did really well. But when I was asked, and I was told actually that I needed to go to Stanford because I was Latina, because I was female, because of my grade point average was so high that, everyone had all these plans for me. And yes, I think I would have been a great doctor. I think I would have been a great attorney, but I'm an artist. And so what happened though, even though I wasn't in trouble, but I also fell through the cracks because they didn't know what to do with me. And I did have a counselor from high school years later in conversation apologized to me because she didn't know how to help me. It wasn't her fault. I am grateful for the journey and the path that I had, because I've been able to, identify that I'm an artist. I've been calling myself, another friend and I, we did make up these titles for ourselves because we love business and art, and we called ourselves entrepreneurs. We did make that word up because there wasn't anything that we felt that described us. And I sort of feel like perhaps, and maybe I'm wrong, but you're a self-proclaimed Philanthro-Capitalist. Can you tell us a little bit about how you identify yourself as that, and what does that mean? And did you make up that word?
So before we get to Philanthro-Capitalist, let's go back to that artist reference.
Yes.
So maybe 20 years ago, I was on the cover of USA Today, and they gave me this title, The Real Estate Artist. And I, because I cannot sing, I cannot carry a tune on an instrument, I cannot sculpt, I'm starting to paint, but I'm not the best at it. But I, like you, Carmen, I always saw things in 3-dimension. I need color in my life, and so my canvas, if you will, is the sun-drenched beaches of Palm Beach. That's my canvas. That's my blank canvas. And the houses that you see, if you go to my website or go to my Instagram feed or anything, you'll see the most beautiful, stunning houses in the world. I didn't go to school as an architect or a designer, but I designed those houses.
Right.
So being a real estate artist allowed me to express in 3-dimension and build and create artistry that people can live in. So I'm with you when you call yourself a philanthro artist. Was that? No, a entrepreneur artist.
Yep.
I totally get it. And there's a chapter in my new book, Aspire, that teaches you how to approach your craft, your business, like an artist, and why you should, regardless if you're in the Tupperware business or if you're, it doesn't matter what business you're in, approach it like an artist. So
yes, I love that.
Critical.
Thank you. Because yes, it's always nice to find another member of your tribe. And I think I read somewhere that you dream in color. I do the same. And I dream, like when I'm writing a song, I literally will dream the words and I see them land on the page, and then I get up and write. I will get up and write at 2 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the morning when a song hits me. Not all the songs come to me that way, but when I dream in Spanish, and I dream in color, and I dream in layers, and I dream in movie snippets. And I think I read somewhere that you do the same, or something. I do.
Yep. And I go deep into it in my new book, Aspire. And the other thing I do, though, I do not want to be, nor I advocate that you be, a starving artist. There's too many starving artists in the world. There's too many people that are proud of being a starving artist. You have to eat. You have to provide for your family. I take no pride in being a starving artist. If my artistry doesn't sell, which is these houses that sell for an average selling price of $14 million, guess what? I'm eating out of a dumpster instead of Ruth Chris Steakhouse. I am not in the business of being a starving artist. Exactly. Businessman first, artist a distant second. But it's the artistry that creates the value. Yes. Really, I sacrifice my bottom line for my reputation. In other words, you enhance your ROI, your return on investment, by your return on your reputation, your ROR. So I will be more than happy to compress my margins to build my reputation. And that I do through my artistry, which in turn pays me more money, which ensures I will never be a starving artist.
Thank you again. I knew it. This is why when I saw you on stage, I was like, I am meant to talk to him at some point. And here we are, because when I work with kids, I had my nonprofit, which I'm about to relaunch. It's called Peanut Butter and Jam Music Sessions for Kids. And as little as 5 years old, I would talk to them about, I don't believe in the term starving artist. I never have. I don't like the idea of couch surfing on Friends. That's just not for me. And so the idea of learning the business of music, which I had to take a crash course, I didn't know anything about the business side of music, but I love business. And so that is what I actually created in the nonprofit, was to teach children right from the get-go some of the business things so that they could open up their minds about it. So thank you again for that second validation.
Yeah. Hey, listen, but if you're listening and you are a starving artist now, that's fine, but just don't be one forever. It's fine to start out on a couch and surf a little bit. Everybody's got to start somewhere. Your artistry, whatever your artistry. Listen, my first house that I flipped was a $50,000 crack house that I made $7,000 on. So there I was, kind of a starving artist. I was making more money as a tennis instructor, but eventually, the most expensive house I ever built and sold, Carmen, was a $50 million house. It had 14 bedrooms. It had 16 bathrooms and an 18-car garage. But that started somewhere, and it started as a starving artist. But I didn't want to maintain that status. So I haven't been a starving artist for a long time.
Actually, yes, that is one thing that I really would like to also talk about is you say that you're able to see opportunities and create realities where none existed before. And based on your philosophy, from what I've seen and what I read and what I've heard you say, you went into real estate markets where other people were too afraid to go. Could you kind of expound on that a little bit and why, how, and lead us up to this last, I think you said it's your last sale that you did last year?
Yeah, and I retired after that. I don't want to make this a real estate,
No.
webinar.
No.
But what I will say, and I'll make this more macro, talking to confidence and strategies. It doesn't matter what line of work you're in, you have to take risk. Even if you're not in a line of work and you're a stay-at-home mom or dad, you have to learn to take risk. So my approach to real estate was as follows, and it starts with the mind. Get the mind right and the money will follow. When I was first starting out, places like Boca Raton and Palm Beach were very popular. Yet I realized I want to make a market. I want to go where someone hadn't gone before. What happens when you think that way is you're contemplating taking a risk. Right? So focus with me. Forget real estate for a second. Your line of work, you're contemplating taking a risk. You're thinking about taking a risk. And my risk at the time was I'm going to put other towns on the map that aren't on the map, that aren't Palm Beach or Boca Raton. The moment you contemplate taking a risk is a 4-letter word, another 4-letter word sets in, fear. Fear is always associated with the thought of taking a risk, not with the actual taking of the risk. So put yourself back at a time in your life when you, or maybe right now, if you're thinking about taking a risk, it's natural to feel fear associated with the thought of taking that risk. I'm going to take it and put a real simple example, a little simple metaphor. You are in line getting on a roller coaster. The moment it's your turn, you sit down in the seat and that metal bar snugs you tight across the waist. It clamps down and you're stuck in that car. And that roller coaster starts to go up that first hill by the chain. It's being pulled up that hill and you hear that clickety, clackety, click. Your heart's pounding. Your blood pressure is going up at the thought about what's going to happen. You haven't done anything yet. Right. You're just thinking about taking that risk I'm going to take when I get to the top. Well, what happens when that roller coaster hits the top and starts to go down? The fear is removed and it's replaced with excitement, exhilaration, and joy. It's the same thing in business. So you can't, most people, once that bar's down, you can't get out. You're there. And in the end, I bet you 8 out of 10 people that ride a roller coaster, when it's over, they run to get to the back of the line all over again. Why? Because they enjoy the exhilaration and just the plain old fun. Right. Business is the same way. If you recognize that the fear you're feeling is associated with the thought of taking a risk, and if you step back and you say, okay, well, what risk am I thinking about taking? The risk you're thinking about taking is always associated with a big change in your life or a big challenge in your life. Yeah. It could be relational, financial, spiritual, dietary, big change, big challenge, even physical, like the running that I do. Yeah. So when I contemplate a big change or big challenge, I'm thinking about taking a risk. Most oftentimes that risk will produce the sensation of fear, and then most of us will bail, will quit because that fear takes over. I will admit, I'm afraid every day of my life. The difference between me and most, or me and my competitors, is I don't let fear stop me. I know that fear is associated with the thought of taking a risk. Once I take the risk, assuming it's a good and calculated risk, that fear goes away and it's replaced with joy, exhilaration, and in most cases, success.
And adrenaline sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, adrenaline can only get you so far, right? I mean, that adrenaline wears off. You don't want to. I actually have an addiction to like excitement, and that you can have a constructive outlet or a destructive outlet for that addiction. That's a whole other. It's actually a chapter in my book. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to the person watching this who feels fear, most often that's associated with only the thought of taking some form of risk. Once you take the risk, the fear dissipates.
Right. That's pretty profound. But you said it in such a understandable, relatable way. So thank you. I really like that roller coaster analogy, because it's that commitment. It's making the commitment to take the risk. And for me, that's usually the point where the fear does dissipate. Once I'm in, I'm in.
It will.
And I can see it through. And I think part of what I've learned as well in my journey is that you have to be ready to deal with the changes, because when you're locked in that seat, you're expecting something, but you may have to you may have to deviate. Not that we would do that on a roller coaster ride, but in life, we have to be ready to be flexible, to, zig when you thought you were going to zag. One of the things that I cannot wait for your book, by the way. I've already pre-ordered mine and I can't wait to get it. One of the things that I wanted to ask you, Frank, is I know you talk about personal branding. Now, you don't look like a traditional real estate person, and we're going to get off that topic. But what I wanted to sort of talk to you about is, how did you have the confidence to build your brand, being the person that you wanted to be in an industry that maybe thought it was a little odd?
Well, okay, I'm glad we're talking about personal branding, because I'm going to, again, make it very simple. Mm-hmm. The definition of personal branding to me is as follows. Personal branding is the art of amplifying your essence to the point where your customers, either current or future, become subliminally intoxicated with you first, then your product or service. Your product or service isn't going to speak for itself. No matter what, that's not what you learn in school. You learn about corporate branding. Nobody teaches you about personal branding. No matter what it is that you're selling. I don't care what, and you could be not selling a product, you could be selling a service. Right. Neither one of those speak for themselves. You have to be the carnival barker. You have to be the megaphone. You have to be the one to get that message out there. Personal branding is the art of amplifying your essence. In other words, what sets you apart from your customers, to the point where they become subliminally, meaning below the surface, subconsciously, intoxicated with you first, Carmen, then your product or service.
Correct.
So my artistry, listen, I'm the opening act for my homes. They are stunning, but I'm the one who has to draw attention to the fact that they are there. Once we've done that, I step back, just like any opening act, and it's time for the main show, the headliner, to take the stage. And in my case, I am not the headliner, because why? I don't come with the house. When you buy the house, you don't buy me. So it's time for me to move out of the way and let the house. So I might be considered the sizzle. The house is the steak. I'm the flash. The house is the substance. And there's, in marketing, there's a place for both. You've got to have flash and substance, steak and sizzle. When it comes to the personal branding definition that I gave you, you want to not be afraid to have what I refer to, and I think it's chapter 16 of my new book, a healthy ego. Yes. Now, if you go back to the origin of the word ego, it was basically back in the time of Freud, there was no negative connotation until the 21st century. Right. There was no, actually the 20th century. The 20th century, it became negative. The negative part is what I would refer to as an unhealthy sense of self-worth or self-esteem. A healthy ego. So I'm going to tell you what is healthy and unhealthy. The healthy ego says three things. I have an otherworldly passion for what I do. Not just a passion, but just this out-of-body experience passion, otherworldly, for what I do for a living. I love it. Building the houses on the ocean, writing books. I have this just otherworldly passion. So if you have that, that's healthy ego. Check that box. Second box. I believe that I'm one of the best in the world at what I do. Not the best, because that's unhealthy ego. There are people out there doing what I do better than me. I know it. I know, though, and believe that I'm one of the best in the world at what I do. So, otherworldly passion. I believe I'm one of the best in the world at what I do. And finally, and this is where people fall short on healthy ego, I must not be afraid to tell the world about it. Mm-hmm. Because if I don't tell the world about this otherworldly passion for what I do, and that I believe I'm one of the best in the world at by backing it up,
Right.
how am I ever going to sell anything? So that is healthy ego. Check those 3 boxes. I'm going to one more time. I'll make it real short. Otherworldly passion for what you do. Believe you're one of the best in the world at what you do, and not be afraid to tell the world about it. That is a healthy ego.
I love it. Thank you. And once again, I see the parallel and why I was so drawn to you, because when I had my music, I started a music organization in San Francisco to bring everyone that loved music, or performers, agents, graphic designers, everything that is part of the music industry. I think I mentioned before, I didn't know anything about the business of music. So I decided to create my own ecosystem. I needed photographers. I needed agents. I needed producers. And I brought them all together. And our logo was shameless self-promotion based on integrity and fact.
Good.
That was our tagline.
I love that. And you know, there should never be any shame in self-promotion anyway. There's no such thing as shameful self-promotion. It's always shameless, because you're believing you're one of the best in the world at, you have an otherworldly desire and passion, and you're probably good at it, and you got to tell the world about it. So I think that whole shame thing should come out from in front of self-promotion.
Yes, and we were the antithesis, we were fighting that whole thing, because when you can back it up, and when you work and you collaborate with integrity, then there is no such thing as, like you said, there's no shame.
There's no shame at all. Shameful, shameless, it doesn't exist. It just should be.
Exactly. I think one of the things that I would really love to talk to you about now is, what your definition of Philanthro-Capitalist and the work that you do in Haiti. I suspect that it's tied into all of that, and how you got to that point to do all this incredible work in Haiti.
Well, let's agree that you cannot succeed in business without succeeding in the business of life. In other words, having your spiritual life in line and everything's wonderful there. Yes. So the answer is it is all tied together. It is meant to be tied together. Getting back to the Philanthro-Capitalist word, yes, it was a made-up word. It basically takes the best of philanthropy and gets rid of the worst of philanthropy, and takes the best of capitalism and gets rid of the worst of capitalism, marries the two, Philanthro-Capitalist or Philanthro-Capitalism. Mm-hmm. What we do with that word, it's just a word until we put it into practice. 18 years ago, we went to Haiti to build self-sustaining villages. Not for profit. This is something that we do through our charity, the Caring House Project Foundation, on the simple premise that stability begins at home. So when I first started building in Haiti, we were taking, almost like I got to play a modern day Robin Hood. Like I got to sell to the rich, very expensive homes. They don't even need another house, but if they want another one on the beach, they're going to buy it from me. Right. Some of the proceeds going to the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, that being Haiti, and building self-sustaining villages. I am not a fan of charity, because charity exacerbates poverty. Exacerbates is a big word for makes it worse. It's really Philanthro-Capitalism, philanthropy and capitalism, free enterprise that is the solution to poverty. And I can walk the talk, because Carmen, we have built 29 self-sustaining villages in the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, dating back almost 19 years ago, by applying this philanthro-capitalistic approach, defined as one village typically has 40 to 50 houses, a community center, a school, a church, a clinic, renewable food, clean drinking water, and some form of free enterprise. So that when we leave, we're gone. I tell them up front, we are not coming back to help you. We're not creating a welfare system in your country, because I think the welfare system in our country, the system is fine. I'm not going to knock the system, but the welfare mentality, the entitlement mentality is toxic. So the systems, for what they are designed to do back in the Great Depression, it's fine. A short period of time, you need a leg up or a hand up, that's fine. But too many people in our country rely on that. I didn't want that to happen in Haiti. So we provide some form of free enterprise, like an animal husbandry, a nursery, sewing machines, a fishing cooperative, so that the villagers can be self-sustaining. And we're 29 for 29. All of our villages are not just surviving, they're thriving. And the concept was born, and I'm a Christian. I know the Bible very well. I'm not going to shove it down your throat. I'm not going to pound on the pulpit. But the concept was born from the passage in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 12, verse 48 says, I'm going to paraphrase it, to whom much is entrusted, much is required. To whom much is given, much is expected. I had been given a lot, Carmen, right? I went to 4 high schools in 4 years and 7 times in juvenile detention, yet I'm succeeding at a pretty high level. I felt it was incumbent upon me to be a responsible steward for God's blessings that he had given me on the material side, to take those blessings and share them with those less fortunate through that philanthro-capitalistic approach, through applying that one simple line from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 12, verse 48. Now, if you're not into religion, guys, it's a great life mantra. I'm going to repeat it again. Don't let the religious aspect of the Bible freak you out. It's a great life mantra. To whom much is entrusted, much is required. You must be a responsible steward for the blessings God's giving you. When you're down on your knees at night and you're praying for more, you're probably asking for some form of, more love, more peace, more happiness, more joy, more money, more success. Okay, God's a very generous God. What are you doing with the more that you already have?
Right.
What kind of steward are you being for the more that you already have? And that's what we put into practice over in Haiti. I've got 13,000 children now that were eating mud flavored with bouillon and lemon juice that are now having a nutritious meal, 2-part protein, 1-part carbohydrate. 2-part carbohydrate, 1-part protein every night, that would have been dead had it not been for this philanthro-capitalistic approach. So, I can walk the talk, and it's a simple approach, Carmen. Anybody can take that approach, maybe not on the scale that we are,
right?
But taking the best of philanthropy, the best of capitalism. Please, while we're at this stage of our interview, write down the name of our website, which is C as in Charlie, H as in house, P as in Paul, F as in Frank, chpf.org, and see for yourself some of the villages that we've built over there in Haiti.
Thank you, Frank. We'll make sure, and please, as I mentioned while we were in the green room, you can jump on at any time on our page to promote your book, to tell us more about what's happening in Haiti at any time. And we'll make sure that we get that in, just below this video as it shows up on YouTube and all of that. You will be able to have access, and you can, just do a shout out. You can post, you can do whatever you'd like, because the fact of the matter is that you have impacted so many lives. And of course, the way that I see things, and again, not going down the whole religious path, but the way that I see things for me is when you are blessed and you give and give, then you are going to receive and receive. I believe that wholeheartedly.
It's biblical. I mean, the Bible says, "Given will be given back to you tenfold," and I'm happy with 5-fold. I'm happy with 2-fold.
Right.
I can't say tenfold. I'm not greedy. Listen, I'm a sinner saved by the grace of God. And I just want to be a conduit for good through the way that I see the world. And that is through this philanthro-capitalistic approach. I'm not trying to, fit into somebody else's, model or way they see the world. The only reason I talk about Caring House Project Foundation, I will promote the hell out of my real estate because I got to sell it. The Caring House comes up because I need money to do what we do. I mean, it's that simple. I don't need volunteers. I don't need in-kind donations. Let's say this was a cup of Starbucks coffee. If you gave this up and donated $4.75, it's a fancy cup of coffee, $4.75. If you donated that to us, we can buy a chicken they'll produce eggs for 2 years before the family eats that chicken. Right. So all the way from a $4.75 chicken all the way up to a $300,000 village. By the way, I can build a whole village for $300,000, and that's 50 houses with a community center, a school, church, a clinic, renewable food, and some form of free enterprise. So, listen, in business, we all are familiar with that ROI, return on investment. We're really good at that ROD, return on donation. How far can I stretch my donor's dollar? I can build a single-family house in Haiti for $4,800.
That's incredible. And I believe that your book is also tied into this project. Can you tell us a little bit about your book now and how it all ties together? Because you said everything is tied together.
Sure. Yeah, everything is tied together. So all of my books, including my 7th book, which I'll talk about in a second, all of the proceeds from my book sales benefit our Caring House Project Foundation. I don't have a prop here of a book, or I hold it up and say, one Aspire book, which is, there's the cover.
Oh. There it is.
Maybe you'll put it up on your webpage. One Aspire book provides 200 meals in one of our orphanages. Just buying one copy is 200 meals in one of our orphanages. So the premise of Aspire, though, so feel good if you go to our webpage, you go to our book page, you click on the drop down that says best-selling books, and you buy a book or buy a bunch of books. Matter of fact, I have the book launch event coming up for Aspire on 11/11, which you saw a little tease about that. So for those of you who are into numbers, 11/11, that is going to be my book launch event. You can read more about that later. I hope you come, Carmen. I hope you'll be there, because we're only allowing 111 people to be there. But the premise of the book, Aspire, how to create your own reality and alter your DNA. That's the subtitle. How to create your own reality and alter your DNA. I don't want to take up all our time on the book, but the simple premise is motivation washes off and goes down the drain with the soap at night. As a species, as human beings, we cannot stay motivated. You name it. Financially, relationally, spiritually, on a diet, going to church, we can't stay motivated, because motivation will wash off the body and go down the drain with the soap at night. So if Carmen and I did a poor job, or if we motivated you today, we did a poor job, because you'll forget about it. Inspiration. So you've watched an inspirational movie, you've read an inspirational book. How long does that last? 2 weeks, maybe 2 weeks, because it wears off like a bad sunburn. Inspiration, it lasts longer than motivation, but it will wear off like a bad sunburn. What I have found, that it altered my DNA from that troublemaking juvenile delinquent to what I am today, is aspiration. What legacy do you aspire to leave behind? What do you aspire to be doing a year from now that you're not doing at this moment? Who do you aspire to emulate? In other words, copy. Put your footprints in their footprints. Who do you aspire to emulate? They'll help you get there. So aspiration is like, it's like a Fabergé egg. My aspirations are in this, like this very special, sacred box. And so I'll give you a simple example of an aspiration. So I run ultra marathons. I run 100-mile races on foot, and I've run the toughest foot race in the world called the Badwater Ultra Marathon. I've run that 12 times. It's a 135-mile race through the Death Valley Desert in July, when the daytime temperatures are 125, the pavement's 200 degrees, and you're running nonstop for 135 miles. Toughest foot race in the world, according to National Geographic. So you got to imagine I got to train for that. Mm-hmm. I got to train for months and months to finish that race. I finished 7. I failed to finish 5. So that's how hard it is.
Right.
Do you think I'm motivated to get up and train every day? Nope, because I'm human. Do you think I'm inspired to go to the gym and work out my legs in my core so I can be strong when I'm climbing up this hill from below sea level to a mile up in this race? Nope, I can't stay inspired. But I will never lose sight of that aspiration, which is to finish the toughest foot race in the world, according to National Geographic, another time. And it's come true for me on 7 occasions. So when you read the book Aspire, there's 5 sections, Carmen. The first section teaches you the difference between motivation, inspiration, and aspiration. The second section we touched on a little bit is about how to get over fear associated with the thought of taking a risk. The third section, there's 5 chapters in each section. The third section is about personal branding. Right. The fourth section is about your love life. It's the first time I'm offering relationship advice, but after being married for 31 years, I think I'm qualified.
I was going to say.
And then the final section is how to find your spiritual highest calling, which we kind of talked about what we're doing in Haiti. So, and in first 5 chapters under each one of those sections. This book is of all my books. So I've written a book on philosophy. I've written 2 real estate books. I've written a spiritual book. I've written young reader fantasy, and I've written Christian romance. This is my first mindset book.
Right.
And it's almost like I should have led with that, right? How do you get the mind right to be able to do, all the things that I'm doing and have done and have aspired to do?
Right.
So I am so excited. This book has taken over a year to put together, and it's going to be released on 11/11, which is a wonderful day.
I can't wait. And I just wanted to add this idea. I didn't really ever have a word for it until I heard you explain this. And for me, it's been the idea of I aspire to be better. As much as I love music, I know what my limitations are and I know what my talents are. So for me, my example, and I do this in business as well, I want to aspire to be better. And I look for mentors, I look for role models. And, kind of like this, I knew that at some point I wanted to have a conversation with you. That was an aspiration back in November of 2019. And it took me a little while to figure it out, but I do the same with my music. I surround myself with musicians that are 100 times more talented than I am. I've often said in my own band, I'm the least talented. I'm the lead singer. It's my band, but I'm the least talented because what we talked about earlier is that healthy ego. I know what I'm good at, but it doesn't stop me from seeing all the value and contributions and how beautiful and more and better my music is when I collaborate with people who are experts at what they do, and I get to learn from them in the process. Is it uncomfortable sometimes? Absolutely. Do they push me sometimes a little too hard? My bandmates or my co-founder in my band? Yeah, it makes me uncomfortable. But I know that when I'm done with that rehearsal or we're finished with that show, I am much better than when I started. Yeah. And I look for that all the time in business. I used to be, not now, but I almost was always the youngest in the room and on a team or in a company that was starting or whatever. Usually I was the youngest. That's not the case anymore, Frank. But, I still want to be surrounded by people that have done it better, that have done it longer, that have done it a different way that I could learn from. To me, that's the aspiration that I live with, but I didn't really have a word for it until you. So thank you.
You have lived an aspirational life, and the premise and the thesis behind the book is to help others identify these aspirations. Okay, so it's one thing to identify. Who do you aspire to emulate? What legacy do you aspire to leave behind? What do you aspire to be doing a year from now that you're not doing? There's a lot of other questions like that in the book. Well, you got to execute. And the book will teach you how to execute. Part of the execution is getting over the fear. There's a whole 5 chapters on that. The next section is, okay, to execute, you've got to have a personal brand. 5 chapters on how to do all of that stuff. And then, this is kind of an outlier. Maybe we spend a minute on it. So if the first 3 sections, which are the difference between motivation, inspiration, and aspiration, the second section is the risk and fear section. Third section is personal branding. The 5th section is your spiritual and professional highest calling. The one about relationships, it's almost like it's off by itself in a cocktail party while the other 4 are talking about it, right? They're gossiping and they're pointing over.
Right.
Like, this is a very new field for me. But what I realized, not just in my own life, but in many of the people that I've spoken to, and I do coach a few people, and I'm in front of thousands of people every year, the importance of your love life and how it relates to your ability to love life. It is so I've seen so many careers ruined over the fact that a significant other will not support the other in their pursuit, or the person, let's say it's you're super passionate about what you do. You have this otherworldly passion. You believe you're one of the best in the world at it. You want to tell the world about it. No problem. So you've got a healthy ego. Guess who you forget to involve? Your significant other. You need to involve that person from the very beginning, or it will come down to a choice. I either keep him or I keep my business, or the tables could be turned. If it's your husband, you have spent too much time paying attention to your business and not enough time paying attention to me. Now, my wife and I, we work together. That is like a minefield.
Right.
That is super dangerous. We've been together on August. It will be 31 years we've been married.
Congratulations.
And if I wouldn't be what I am today without her in my life. And so I wanted to codify the importance of relationships. Yes, plural, platonic, business,
right, friends, family,
friends, family. But this really speaks more to the romantic side of relationships, the intimate type relationships, and how important they are and what role they play in your aspirations. So I hope that people, again, I'm not a qualified relationship expert, but you know what? After all these years of seeing what works and what doesn't work and how important it is to the aspiration of the individual, I wanted to share 5 chapters on just that. Well,
I think after 31 years, you are more than qualified for whatever that's worth. But I also wanted to dive into, there's this whole other side that you touched on. It's the support system that one has or doesn't have as they're going after their dreams. And sometimes, you believe that you have certain people in your corner again, the show is really about positivity. I don't like to delve in the negative space. However, I'm wise enough to understand that we have to acknowledge it and recognize it because it does exist. I've been asked by several people throughout the course of this show, how do you have the confidence to say what you say, what you believe, to go after what you are going after when they're telling me, I've seen people, I know that people talk about you behind your back and they're not nice about what they have to say to you. Like my response has always been, and I'm curious to see what yours is, mine is, I can't help it what people think or don't think about me. At the end of the day, they're not the ones that are paying my bills. They're not the ones that understand what my vision is or my dream. And those people that don't support me in the way that I need, well, then I'm going to keep moving anyway. It's not that I don't bury my head in the sand. I know and I acknowledge and I hear it, but where am I going to put my energy? Into what I need to do or into what somebody is thinking about me? I just don't care enough. So I wonder if you could share a little bit about that, because again, people are very quick to judge us by the way we look, of course, by our skin color, by our ethnicity, but they're also quick to judge us by what we have or don't have. I know for a fact that some people put all this importance on the types of cars that someone drives, or she's not dressed a certain way, or she's driving a 1995 Jeep Wrangler, which is what I drive. Those are all my choices, so I don't really care what anyone thinks, but I know that people do, and they do judge on those things. How do you handle that?
Well, I'm a sensitive person. I'm extremely sensitive to what other people say, and taken me my entire life to work on that I'm not going to lose my sensitivity. I don't want to lose my sensitivity.
Exactly.
But I savor everything, and I attach to nothing. I savor every moment, but I don't attach to it. I kind of die to every single moment. So if somebody comes along and says, "Why do you have purple hair?" or "You don't look like a businessman," or what? In the moment, what does it matter? I mean, really, what does it matter? And if I feel like it warrants an answer, like, personal branding answer or something where I could help them, I'll give the answer. I'll savor the moment that it happened. I do savor the moment. And then I attach not to it at all. Exactly. That's very helpful. If you just go through life savoring every moment, dying to that moment, and then not attaching to these things that are of the world. Meaning, like I drive a 1988 Yugo. For those of you who look that up, most of you don't even know what that is. I have a chapter in the book that is titled Materialism with a line through it. Mm-hmm. Consumerism with a line through it. Philanthro-Capitalism with an exclamation point.
Right.
So dropping materialistic things, dropping consumeristic things, meaning I have to go out and consume. Because remember, and I'm sure you've experienced this, everybody listening, the energy you put into obtaining a material thing is never returned to you with the same force that you put into it. A simple example is going to the car lot. You put all this energy and research and joy into getting in there and smelling that new car smell. But for some people that are so addicted to consumerism, materialism, the euphoria wears off before the first tank of gas is gone. Before the first tank of gas in that new car is gone, your addiction needs another hit. You need another hit from the world. So I just I keep my inner circle really small, Carmen. That's another help. If you, I am an open book, and I have no problem being authentic, transparent, and vulnerable. ATV, like really opening it up. But the people I let into that inner circle, and it's not a protectionist thing; it's just a trust thing. It's funny you should say, because I just finished writing acknowledgments for my book, acknowledging people that basically inspired me to aspire. Like, why is this book possible? Who do I dedicate this book to that helped? I got to acknowledge. Right. All but one person has been in my inner circle for 10 years or more, some 20 years. A matter of fact, I collaborated on Aspire with the same person I collaborated with 20 years ago on my first book. That's, once you find the good people, now we went our separate ways for a while, but we came back. Once you find those good people, hold on to them. Yes. Hold on to them. That race I referenced in the desert, that 135-mile race across the Death Valley Desert in July. There's no aid stations, Carmen. So my crew leapfrogs me every mile, feeding me, hydrating me, cooling me down, changing my clothes. If it isn't for that crew, there isn't mile 5, let alone mile 135. It's a great metaphor for life. So I'm keen on putting together the best crew I can in that race. And I do the same thing, small crew in my life. I savor everything and I attach to nothing. I love that. Thank you so much. I am taking up already. We've already almost hit the hour mark, and I could go on forever, but I know that you're super busy. I know you've got things to do. I would love for you to share with us, where can people get your book, your website, all your contact information. We'll do it on the video, but we'll also put it in all the posts that we do subsequent to the video. So the book, you go to theaspirebook.com, theaspirebook.com. You can read a sample chapter there. You can learn about this 11/11 book launch experience, which is, I'm just putting together the details, but in short, it's going to start at my oceanfront house and tree house. And then you're going to be whisked by VIP limo to a secret location to participate in these immersionary experiences. There's going to be flaming archers, flame-throwing archers. There's going to be Vikings. There's going to be an Aspire altar. There's going to be Aspire angels. There's going to be an NFT for every guest there. It is the most immersionary thing I've ever put together. So theaspirebook.com. You can learn about the book. You learn about the event. And then just my website. My website's been referred to by, I think it was PC Magazine. They called it Disney on a desktop because there's so much in there. It's just my name, Frank-McKinney.com. Make sure you put the hyphen in there, the dash, Frank-McKinney.com. You can see the villages we've done in Haiti. You can take a tour of all 29 of them. You can see the houses I built on the ocean. You can take a tour of many of those that I didn't have to pull off because of privacy issues. Right. You can read about all the other books that I've written, where I'm going to be speaking, frank-mckinney.com. And I would love to see you, especially you, Carmen. I would love to see you at this Aspire book launch experience, because it's going to be an experience on 11/11, theaspirebook.com. I am hoping that my trip that's scheduled for November is not during that time. Well, you know the date, 11/11. I may not be able to leave the country at that time, so who knows? Frank, I cannot tell you how thrilled I am. Thank you for giving us this hour. Thank you for all these thoughts and perspectives and wisdoms. And just, I appreciate you so much. Since November of 2019, I have a big, huge fan, but mostly because not only are you also someone that I aspire to be like, but
everything that you do, everything that you talk about, for me, it's so genuine. It's so authentic. You are literally changing the world. Thank you so much.
Well,
I'm just honored.
That is the last chapter of my book is with the aspiration, you will change the world, and it teaches people how to do that. So I'm glad you gave me the opportunity to share with your guests, and hopefully we'll see you and your guests in November or at some time in the near future. So thank you, everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you, Frank. And maybe I'll see you in December.
Yes.
I'll work on that.
Okay, yes, great.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for staying with us. This has been a very special edition. Now that you've seen it and heard it, you know how special this was. Our guest was Frank McKinney. Make sure you get the book, Aspire. What was the website again?
TheAspireBook.com. You can pre-order it right now.
Yes. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you, Frank, for everything. I appreciate you so much. And we will see you next month on our regular time, 7 p.m. on Confidence Strategies with Carmen Milagro. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.